Dear learners, I welcome you to this online counseling classes. So due to the pandemic, you are not interacting to face, so you are not able to move anywhere. So you have to stay home and stay safe. So now, what you had thought, you have to start our counseling session through online mode. So I request all our learners, because the few number of learners are participating in the counseling class, because please circulate all of your students. It's possible if you can attend more and more, it can useful to all the students. Then you can understood what is the value of distance education, what is in human rights. Because if you will not join, because you nowadays I think you have no work, so sitting in the home you can take the benefit what you are organizing for the council session on online. So other side, your our resource person, your counselor Ramesh Pati sir is present. So he will discuss about today CHR 12 Development India in Human Rights. So today he will discuss about the block 1. So sir is a retired principal in law college. So he's one of the excellent academician. So he will address you about the CHR 12. And dear learners, you have to put in the mute mode of your audio. Once sir presentation will over, so automatically you will unmute, and whatever the query you have to ask. Distance education, our face-to-face interaction or conversation is going on. It's an interactive class. Sir will present few, and you have to ask more question. You have to clarify your doubt. But this is a online mode, so that's why sir will talk much. You are only following the lecture method. Once sir presentation will over, then you can clarify your doubt and you ask your question. So now, and about the assignment also, whatever the query you have, how to write an assignment, when to present, because you have to fill up your form. If the examination is in June and term examination, you have to appear your exam in June. So before that, you have to, now the form fill up is going on. April 30 is the last date. So kindly submit your online examination form. For each course, you have to pay 150 rupees. You pay 2 courses means you have to pay 300 rupees. And another things, you have to write your assignment, because assignment question is available in our website. Our website is www.ignou.sc.in. So from this website, you have to download your assignment, then you have to write your assignment on the A4 size paper. Okay. So now I request to Ramesh sir, and I welcome you, sir. So I handed over the session to you. Start your presentation right now. Thank you, sir.
Hello, learners. Hello, learners.
You start, sir.
Welcome.
They in the mute mode. You go on your presentation.
Okay. Today we shall learn about the development of human rights in India. It dates back to our Vedic concept, the Hindu religion, the Buddhist religion, Jainism, Buddhism, all inspires, all the religions and Vedas inspire the concept of human rights in India. As we know,
ନା କଣଟା ହେଲା ସାର୍ଙ୍କର କଣ ହେଲା ସାର୍ଙ୍କର କଣଟା ହେଇଗଲା ସାର୍ଙ୍କର କଣ ହେଲା ବାପା ଗୋଟିଏ ଫଟୋ ନଉଛେ ସାର୍ କଣ ହେଲା ମୋ ମାଇକ୍ ଅନ୍ କରି ପଚାରିଲେ ଶୁଭା ଅଛି ପଚାର
Hello.
ପଚାର
ଶୁଭୁନି, ମତେ ବି ଶୁଭୁନି।
ଆରେ ପଚାର ଶୁଭା ଅଛି କି ନାହିଁ?
ଶୁଭୁନି, ବୁଝିବ ସାର୍ ଶୁଭୁଛି?
ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ ପଚାରେ ସର୍ କଣ ଭଏସ୍ ଶୁଭୁଛି?
କୋଉ ପିଲାର ଭଏସ୍ ଆସୁଛି ପଚାରି?
ନା ପଚାର ରୁହ ମୁଁ ରୁହ ମୁଁ ଅନମ୍ୟୁଟ୍ କରିଦଉଛି। ତ ତମେ କୁହ ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ ଗୋଟେ ପିଲା ଅନମ୍ୟୁଟ୍ କରିକି କୁହ କି ଭଏସ୍ ଆସୁଛି କି ନାହିଁ?
Please unmute your mic. Now you tell me it's audible to sir's speech. ପିଲାମାନେ କିଏ ଜଣେ ଅନମ୍ୟୁଟ୍ କର ମତେ କୁହ ସାରଙ୍କ କଥା ଶୁଭୁଛି କି?
କଣ ହେଲା?
ହ୍ୟାଲୋ
ସାର୍ ଶୁଭୁଛି?
ଶୁଭୁଛି?
ହଁ ସାର୍ ଶୁଭୁଛି।
ତମକୁ ହାତରେ ଶୁଭୁଛି।
ଓକେ ଫାଇନ୍। ଆମକୁ ଶୁଭୁନି ରେ ପିଲାଙ୍କୁ ଶୁଭୁଛି। ଆମର କଣ ହେଲା?
ମମିର ନେଟ୍ ସ୍ଲୋ ହେଇଯାଇଥିବ ଗୋଟେ ମିନିଟ୍ ରହିଯାଅ। ଏଇଟା ମୋର କାହିଁକି ହଉନି ମ? ପ୍ରିଣ୍ଟ ସ୍କ୍ରିନ୍। ଫଟୋଟା ଉଠୁନି ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ।
ହୁଁ?
ରହିଲ। Print screen. Control print screen. No. କଣ ହେଲା? ଏଟା ଉଠୁନି କାହିଁକି?
ନେଟ୍ ନାହିଁ ରେ।
Paste. ଗୋଟେ ଫୋଟୋ ନେଇଛି। ସୁର କୁ ଛାଡିଦେଲେ। ସୁର ଛାଡିଦେଲେ କଣ?
କିଏ?
ନା ଅଛନ୍ତି। ଶୁଭାଯାଉଛି?
ମତେ କିଛି ଶୁଭୁନି।
ରିଅଲ ପଟି। କାହିଁକି? ମୋର ଶୁଭା ହେଲା?
ନା।
ସେ କିଛି କହୁନାହାନ୍ତି।
ପିଲାଙ୍କୁ ଶୁଭୁଛି କହୁଛନ୍ତି।
Hello.
ହଁ ଶୁଭିଲା।
Oh,
ହ୍ୟାଲୋ। ସାର୍
Sir.
ହଁ ସାର୍ ଶୁଭିଲା ସାର୍।
ହଁ ଷ୍ଟାର୍ଟ କରିବା।
ହଁ ସାର୍ କଣ୍ଟିନ୍ୟୁ।
ହଁ। If the concept of human rights development in India, it dates back to the Vedic culture, the Hindu religions, Buddhist religion, Jainist religion, and other socio-economical, religious, ethnical development in India. So if we go into the concept of Vedic religion, the main issue of the inspiration of human rights, the historical development begins from Hindu scriptures and Vedas, and thereafter the Buddhism, Jainism, and other concepts. It inspires the concept of human rights in India, in the ancient India. And moreover, the political development during the colonial rule of British in India, the the individual the right to liberty movement, right to freedom movement. It inspires the concept of human rights in India. You see, the Bhagavad Gita also inspires the concept of development of human rights in India. It Bhagavad Gita, it emphasizes the self, the self, the atma, the self righteousness, and other things which inspires the human rights development in India. So this unit is aimed at introducing you the idea of human rights emerging through India, Indian historical development. After going through this unit, you understand the idea and status of rights in ancient Hindu, know about the contributions of Buddhism and Jainism in development of equality and liberty, appreciate the contribution made in Sufi movements and towards recognition of individuals' identity and his or her equality, and know the concerns for human rights that emerged during modern period. Human rights, Section D of the Protection of Human Rights Act 1993 defines human rights as the rights relating to the life, liberty, equality, dignity of individual guaranteed by the Constitution or embodied in the international on conventions and enforceable by the courts of India. So the individual rights relating to the life, liberty, equality, and dignity of the individual guaranteed by the Constitution is also the concept of human rights. Human rights, also known as various terms as natural rights. It is also natural rights. It is the moment the human being takes birth, the human rights are embedded with the human being, and it is also the fundamental rights have been in vogue since old times. So the human rights development has been from the olden times, from the since the time of Vedas, since the time of the establishment of Hindu religion. You know, Hindu religion is an unorganized religious institution, and in Hindu religions, in Vedas, the the uh, the the karma of human being, the dharma and karma of human being are the two aspects. Dharma means the person who is to do certain things and who is not to do certain things. The person who is to do certain things is the dharma, and which is prohibited by the dharma, it is not. It is avoidable. The human beings are prohibited not to do dharmas, and it follows the karma of the human being. It follows the karma of the human being. So we know very well that the any movement of liberty of individual or the individual liberty movement against the totalitarian and authoritarian government are the main concepts of human rights. That we were under the colonial rules since time immemorial, and during the colonial rules, the fundamental rights like the right to life, right to liberties, and the dignity of the individuals are denied by the British government. So many organizations like the civil liberty movements started against the colonial rules and against the British government. In a substantial sense, the Constitution of India belongs to European legal tradition. This does not mean that the various Indian traditions did not influence the members of the Constituent Assembly as they drafted the extremely important legal document. The idea of human rights is entitlement or claims to an extent of ancient Indian traditions. This was because the traditions were predominantly non-anthropocentric. Hinduism is one of the oldest religious traditions that have survived to our days. However, it is neither monolithic traditions and it is an unorganized religion. Instead, it has many contrasting currents contained within itself. The principal text of ancient Hinduism are Vedas, which certainly polythesis, hymns, monistic tendency, ethical guidelines, and even ridicule of the god. So the polytheistic hymns means we are the worshippers of the multi gods. We worship many gods. We worship crores of gods. But the monastic tendencies means we worship only one god. We worship only one concept. And the problems of worried the Hindu mind during the later Vedic period, Vedantic period, were the nature of reality, the meaning of human life and possibility. The thought of Siddhartha Gautama is an important element in the history of Indian ethical and political philosophy. Though, although there was many Buddhist thought was of social norms of deity. Deities, he was fully against the worshipping of the deities. The answer, according to the enlightened one, was that all things have the same nature and idea of worship. Enlightened Buddhist forms an important part of non-Brahmanism and Sanskritic tradition. He was against the non-Brahmanism and main affairs of this earth, unlike interest of gods and goddess and good life in heaven after death, earth being a veil of tears, become the primary concern of thought. Buddha rejected the caste system, for it was based upon inequality and treated some individuals as morally superior priority, superior purely on grounds of birth. So, in our own, in the ancient our Hindu religion, the caste system, the discrimination of the caste system was more rampant, and which was against the concept and value of the human rights. So, Gautam Buddha, in his religion, he discarded, he has discarded the caste system, the Brahmanism concept, the worshipping of God. He has he has enunciated the theory of universal principles of non-violence and the meaningful he got non-violence and good conduct is more meaningful than any sacrifice. The concept of human rights developed when the human rights, when the humanitarian value and international law of war have focused on the right of men, women, and children in armed conflicts. When Ashoka invaded Kalinga, and lakhs of people were killed by the war in the war of Kalinga, and many lakhs of people suffering. Thereafter, the great Ashoka converted into Dharmashoka. He enunciated the religion Buddhism in Kalinga, Utkal, and he had also established the various service center for the animals. He prohibited killing some animals, some birds, and he preached the Buddhism, and he has also enunciated the theory of non-violence, speaking the truth. The truth is the very much cardinal principles of human rights, the life, liberty of the person, no discrimination, no discrimination against the human being, irrespective of the caste, creed, color, and all are equal. All human beings are the creation of our Almighty, and nobody should be discriminated and not discriminated uh, on the um, principle of caste system. Everybody is equal, and the very interesting story of Gautam Buddha against Gautam Buddha for the dignity of the life, not even of the human being, but also the dignity of the life of a animal and the bird. Once he said, when he was a prince and he was roaming in his garden, a swan fell in front of him, and he was pierced by the arrow, which was hunted by his brother, and he thereafter took care of the bird and took out the arrow from the body of the bird, and he thereafter treated the bird, and the bird was healed. And when his brother came to him and demanded that he has hunted the bird, he has pierced the bird by the arrow, and he demanded the swan from Gautam Buddha. Thereafter, this matter went to the court of his father, King Suddhodana, and Suddhodana decided the fact that bird, the bird was, though it was nursed by Gautam Buddha, he was entitled to the bird, and who has hunted the bird, he was not entitled to the bird. And Gautam Buddha, though he has treated the bird, nursed the bird, and healed the bird, so the bird was in kept of the care of Gautam Buddha, and the his brother was denied. His brother was denied to the bird. So the compassion, and the empathy towards the animal, the spill of blood of the animals and the human being, and compassion to the every animal, every bird, every creature of the world. It is the main inspiration of source of human rights. And in the medieval India, the Sufi culture, the Sufi and Bhakti culture was developed. So far the Sufi culture is concerned, in one Sufi, there is Muhyiddin Chushti, Khwaja Muhyiddin Chushti, in 1911, had come to India and established the Sufi culture, in which the truthness, the simplicity of the man, the non-violence, the compassion, to the animals, and interaction of the individual with truth and non-violence was the prime concern enunciated by Sufi, and there was a Bhakti culture. In Bhakti culture also, so many ancient saints like Nanak, Namdev, they came came to light, and they enunciated the Bhakti culture, and the which was which concerns the introspection of the Atman, the introspection of the self, the introspection of the self, in which the one can determine, or one can realize the self-determination of truth, non-violence, and interdependence of the human being. You know, our the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, he has stated that if every human being is dependent, no human being can survive without dependency. So all are interdependent, and it is also the nature of the cosmos. It is also the natural rights. They, without dependency, without acting upon others, a single human being cannot exist. Even the animals also cannot exist without the harmony of the nature. So the human rights concept, it is also inherited from the non-violence stream of our father of nation, Mahatma Gandhi. The human rights concept also came from our medieval India, and the main individual of Emperor Akbar, who who contributes both from the rulers and some Islamic Akbar in particular, were notable in extending a symmetrical treatment to the population without making any discrimination on the grounds of religion. So Akbar, he is one of the notable Mughal emperor who has contributed the concept of human rights on the grounds, and he has not discriminated on the grounds of religion. And he has, in medieval India, he has opened a ibadat in which all persons belonging to every religion, all persons of any religion, they assemble in ibadat, the office in which the all hymns of all religions were recited. It was debated, and he completely banned the sale and purchase of slaves. Akbar also extended freedom to all religions. Those who had been forcibly converted to one, they were restored to their original religion. He allowed the building of Hindu temples, Christian churches, and Jewish in India, given the spirit of the time, were given the spirit of times, these were magnanimous steps. Akbar transformed the educational syllabus history. So we have already discussed the contribution of the Mughal emperor, the notable Mughal emperor Akbar, towards the development of human rights, the Bhakti and Sufi movement in the medieval India, in which the uh, the the indiscrimination, the not discrimination of any human being in respect of each religion, his birthplace, his caste, his creed, and his color. All are equal, and one of the best proponents of human rights is our Guru Nanak, who has who wanted to wipe out the caste system from the society. He wanted to treat all human beings in equality. He enunciated the human based on caste, religion, and wealth. He also prevailed the social levels like untouchability. We all know the ugly system in the Indian society was untouchability. The persons of lower status not allowed to come to the temple. They were not allowed to with watching. So this is the ugly system in our caste system. And the caste, as you know, it is the division of labor to facilitate the public orderly or Vedic system and the system, the developed caste system to improve economically, socially, and politically. But later on, it turned into a very ugly system, and the persons of the lower stratas, they were not allowed to public place, they were not allowed to public ghats, they were not allowed to visit the temples and other religious institutions. So Guru Nanak, at that time, he preached his religious sermon. He preached his religious sermon of untouchability, the eradication of the untouchability from the society. And the history of, we shall know, we shall learn about the history of human rights in modern India. So, as we know, the totalitarian state and authoritarian state, they do not respect the human values. They already lord over the general public. They do their public duties at their own suitability on their own discretion. The first time in British imperialism, the Ilbert Bill was passed during the 1880 and 1884. The Ilbert Bill, in its original form, it empowers the magistrate, the district and sessions judge, and the Indian civil service, serving as district magistrate, that any person under the criminal law, he will be prosecuted irrespective of he is a Indian or irrespective of he is a person of the colonial rule or he is a foreign belonging to the colonial rule, foreigner belonging to the colonial rule. So every person is entitled to be prosecuted if there is a crime committed by the person irrespective of the Indian and irrespective of the person of colonial rulers. The special sessions of the Indian National Congress at Bombay adopted the Declaration of Rights. For the first time before independence in 1919, the first session of Indian National Congress the declared the Declaration of Rights. In 1990, a S. Satyamurthy, a Congress leader from Madras, wrote the rights of citizens in presence of in a response to, I repeat, as Satyamurthy, a Congress leader from Madras, wrote the rights of citizens in response to a draconian Revolt Act. He lucidly enunciated the Declaration of Rights and defined the certain concept related to civil liberties. So the Indian National Congress also time to time has declared about the human rights. He protested against the colonial rules to establish the human rights and declared that every person should be treated equally. There is equality of law, and all are equal before the law. So in 1936, Jawaharlal Nehru also played a leading role in the establishment of Indian Civil Liberties Union. In the establishment of Indian Civil Liberties Union, whose objective was to create consciousness and to expand and extend the scope and content of the civil liberties. That is in short form ICLU. So we know that our first Prime Minister was was the a was a fighter in the set up these unions in Mumbai, Calcutta, Madras, Punjab, and investigated the case of political imprisonment and harassment, political brutalities, bans and extension on citizens' rights, not only by the British Raj but also by the rulers of the princely state. So, in this, by establishing these institutions, Nehru has set up many offices of ICLU in various metro cities like Bombay, Calcutta, Madras, and Delhi. And he has investigated against the brutalism, oppression, and tyrannical attitude of the colonial rules and also the princely rules in India. So we have already discussed the Gandhian concept of rights. As you know, Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi, he was the a believer of truth and non-violence, and he had enunciated the human rights, the equal value of every human being, irrespective of their caste, creed, color. Everybody is equal. All are creatures. All are the creations of God, and he has observed the karma, then speaking the morality. And the environmentalist tradition is also the concept of human tradition. We the now the entire forest are being depleted. The felling of trees is a common phenomenon for the mindless development of the society. The rivers are dried, the mountains are being used, or it is being destroyed for the industrial development, for the mining and other purposes. So our ancient religious scriptures also denied not to kill the animals, protect the nature, not to take away the resources unnecessarily. which is not which is not required, which is more than the needs, and out of greedy, the human being or the society and the modern development modern developed person, they are destroying the nature, they are destroying the forest, they are bringing the harms to the nature. So so the human being is suffering like anything. And the best example of the one of the Bisnois community in Rajasthan, they were the lover of the nature. They they as a matter of practice and outline used their natural resources judiciously and shown tremendous respects for environment around them. So they are called Bishnois. They are of Jodhpur, Rajasthan. This community is the lover of the nature. And once the king of Jodhpur ordered to cut the trees for some reasons. They finally protected the trees, hugging the trees. The woman hugged the trees and protected the trees. The king finally desired to punish them, but at last the king of Jodhpur bowed his head and protected the forest, protected the trees. So in this way, the protection of environment, protection of nature, protection of wild animals, not to depletion of the human resources, and not to take away the the resources of the nature mindlessly. Out of greed, we should not exploit the natural resources, and the mindless development of the industrialization and other the development of urban society, the nature is on the brink of the dest- destruction, and it is already destroyed. For that reason, the human beings and the public at a large are suffering, and the now we shall bring some concepts of human rights from the liberty of the press. When the press is not independent, when the press is denied to express his opinion freely, when the press is denied to reveal the truth, no human rights can be developed. Unless the press is given independence to act according to the conscience, and according the it is said that it is the fourth pillar of the our constitution, and unless the press are given liberty to express the opinion, to ventilate the truth to the society, no human rights can be enlightened. So the Indian press, it is a it dates back the to the time which is the first Indian language publication appeared in Bengali in 1818. In 1821, Ram Manohar Roy, the famous Bengali reformer, brought out Samvad Kumudi, though he did not edit it. In 1822, he started the Persian weekly named Mirat ul Akbar in order to lay before the public such articles of intelligence as may increase their experience and tend to their environment improvement, communicate to the rulers a knowledge of the real situation of their subjects. So, in the colonial rule, the colonial rulers, the English rule suppressed the liberty, and independence of the press. And it brought about an draconian rule, that is the sedition, the information of sedition, and all of the press which were published at that time from Calcutta, Bombay, and Madras, they were gagged, they were suppressed. So, role of the press, the role of the journalism, the role of the mass media, the role of the media are more important for the development of human rights, the concept of human rights. So, we shall discuss the at that time the our great personalities, they have fought against the colonial rule to for the existence of the press in India. So the national movement and human rights is also the main concept of rise of human rights. The civil disobedience movement headed by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, salt satyagraha launched by Gandhiji, Congress boycotted to the central legislature assembly at that time, Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya of the Nationalist Party. They fought for the human liberty, the individual liberty, and the development of human rights passed through many phases in India, in ancient times, in Vedic period, in the medieval India, and the movement of independence or movement of freedom for individual liberty by our freedom fighters. They also developed the rise of human rights in Indian context. So we shall discuss about the importance characteristics of human rights which is enshrined in our constitution, that is right to equality, article 14 to 18. Right to equality, these are the two kinds of rights, some available all persons living in India and some available only to citizens. Right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, cultural and educational rights, right to constitutional remedies. These are all the fundamental rights which are enshrined in the 44th Amendment, the fundamental rights in part 3rd of the Constitution. And right to equality, it is incorporated in Article 14 to 18. This means that no one is above the law. Right to equality means no one is above the law or has a special privilege under the law. At the same time, everyone is to be equally treated by law. So this is the right to equality. Whoever he may be, no one is above the law. No one have a special privilege under the law. The state shall not discriminate against any citizen on ground of only race, religion, caste, sex, or birth of place, and no citizen shall discriminated against in the use of the public place and public utilities on the same ground. However, the state can make special provisions for women, children, and any socially and educationally backward classes, Article 15. So the government has made special arrangements for the women, children, and downtrodden classes like SC and STs and minorities. So these are the concept of right to equality enshrined in our constitution. And untouchability is also abolished and punished by law, Article 17. The state shall not confer any title other than military or academic. Thereafter, the right to freedom, Article 19, confers on all citizens freedom of speech and expression subject to reasonable restrictions. Freedom of speech and expression subject to reasonable restrictions. So everyone is entitled to freedom of speech and expression, but there should be reasonable restriction imposed by laws in the interest of sovereignty and integrity of India. So in the interest of sovereignty and integrity of India, there is reasonable restriction of speech and expression of every individual. To assemble peaceably and without harm, subject to reasonable restriction imposed by law in the interest of the sovereignty and integrity of India or public order. So everyone is entitled to assemble freely without any arms. One can hold a peaceful assembly but without arms. It is the interest of, if it is the interest of sovereignty and integrity of India, public order or morality, to move freely throughout the territory of India, to reside in any parts of India, subject to reasonable restriction imposed by law in the interest of general public or the protection of interest of any scheduled tribes. So we are entitled to move freely throughout the India. We are entitled to practice any profession or to carry on any occupation, trade or business subject to reasonable restrictions imposed by law in public. So we are free, we are entitled to free to move throughout the India. We can practice any profession, we can practice any occupation, we can adopt any occupation subject to the reasonable restrictions imposed by law in public interest. So, Article 20 and 22 together provide protection in respect of conviction for offences beyond law and detention without trial. So, nobody can be convicted without any fear of trial. Nobody should be imprisoned or nobody should be arrested illegally and nobody should be detained illegally. Without any fair trial. So nobody will be allowed to be persecuted or nobody should be allowed to be arrested or detained without the fair trial. So a new article, Article 21A, promises the right to education of children of the age of between 6 and 14. So every child who is in the age within 6 and 14 is entitled to be given the free education which is prescribed by the Constitution of India. The rights against exploitation, trafficking in human beings. So it is seen that the human beings are being immorally trafficked. The forced laborers like beggars are prohibited through the state may impose compulsory service for public purpose without discrimination. So the forced laborers and beggars are prohibited. The trafficking in human beings are prohibited. And thereafter, the right to freedom religion, subject to the public order, morality and health, all persons are equally entitled to freedom of conscience and the right to profess, practice and propagate religion. Article 25, however, the state can legislate on economic, financial, political, and others secular activities associated with the religion practice. Article 25, the state can also legislate for social welfare and reform and to throw upon Hindu religious institutions of public character to all sections of the Hindus. So, it is the freedom of religion. Every person is entitled to propagate his religion, to establish his religious institution, to adopt the religion practice, but can also legislate for social welfare and reform. But it should not be against the public immorality. It should not be against the public order. It should not be against the any public character. So Article 25 is the foundation of Indian secularism. You know, the preamble of the Constitution: sovereign, democratic, social, secular, sovereign, democratic, socialistic, secular country, and secular is one of the main principles of our Constitution. And by incorporating this Article 25, right to freedom of religion, Article 25, it establishes the concept of secularism in India. The last stipulation will be understood only if read together with the Article 17 that prohibits untouchability and evil consequence of the caste system. Untouchability exists among the Hindus. The Jains also have a kind of caste system. So the prohibition of the untouchability system from the scenario of the ancient India and medieval India, it is one of the victory of secularism. And Article 17 is also the part of the secularism. Article 17, the that prohibits untouchability, is also the part of the secularism. Article 26 provides the religious denomination the right to set up and manage their religious institution. Article 27 forbids imposition of any tax for exclusive benefit of any particular religion. Article 28 forbids imparting religious institution wholly or funded by the state. So these are the freedom of religion. Thereafter, the cultural and educational rights. These are aimed at the benefits of the minorities. Any section of people in India or any part of it has right to preserve their language, script and culture. No citizen shall be denied admission into school maintained or aided by the state or on the grounds of religion, race, caste, language or any of them. All religious in linguistic minorities have the right to set up, maintain educational institution of their own choice. The state, while making grants to the education, discriminate against religious or linguistic minority. Article 30. So this is the one of the cardinal principle of secularism, that is the right to freedom of religion, and the last is the right the constitutional remedies. Supreme Court has been given to enforce the fundamental rights. If the fundamental rights is violated by any person or by any state or by any authority, the Supreme Court is empowered to enforce the fundamental rights. It can issue the habeas corpus. So there are issues. There are various writs like habeas corpus, commanding a detaining authority to bring detained person to the court. So the arrested person or detained person must be commanded to bring to the court for trial. So no person can be illegally arrested, detained by any authority. If any person is arrested or detained illegally, it is by the process of the writ, that is habeas corpus. The persons will be commanded, the authority will be commanded to bring the arrestee or the detainee to the court for the trial. The next is mandamus ordering government to do its duty. So the government also cannot violate the fundamental rights. If any government violates the fundamental rights, the government will be ordered to do its duty, to restore the fundamental rights of the person, and it can order any government or any duty, or it can punish or penalize any person, any authority, or any government for violating of someone's right. The next is prohibition, stopping an authority from violating someone's right. So prohibition, it is by the issue of the writ of prohibition, the government cannot violate the rights. The next is quaranto, asking official body, the authority under such a power has been exercised, and statutory taking over of a case from lower court by a higher court. So, by quaranto, the authority under which power has been exercised, asking official body. By quaranto, the Supreme Court can ask the official body to exercise its power and prohibit the authority not to violate the fundamental rights. And statutory is the taking over in the trial, the proceeding of the higher court from the lower court to the higher court. So by issuing the statutory, the higher court, the Supreme Court can order the lower court to transfer the trial or the transfer of the proceeding to the higher court. Thereafter, you know, the fundamental rights are enshrined or prescribed in the chapter 3rd of the Constitution. It is negative in nature. And thereafter, in 4th chapter, there is a directive principle of state policy. It has been mentioned earlier that directive principle of state policy are a special feature of the Indian Constitution. They do not restrict the power of the state. They add to the state's responsibility. Therein indirectly enhance its power. Essentially, they are aimed at social welfare, particularly of the weaker section of the Indian people. So the directive principle of state policy, which is incorporated in chapter 4 of the Constitution, it is aimed for the establishment of the welfare state, directive principle of state policy, and particularly it protects the weaker section of the Indian society. The states shall strive to reduce inequalities of income, status, facilities, and opportunities not only among individuals but also among groups residing in different areas and pursuing different occupations. So, the main aim of directive principle of state policy is to reduce the inequalities of income. This, so it will strike a balance. It will strike a balance. The economy of the state or the principles of welfare state can be maintained. The states shall in particular try to secure to all citizens the right to adequate means of livelihood, distribution of ownership, and control of material resources of community so as to best serve the common goods, resist concentration of wealth in the means of production against common detriment, secure for men and women equal for equal work, equal pay for equal work, secure improvement of health and strength of workers, and free and dignified growth of children. So it will, the responsibility is fixed on the central government, the responsibility fixed on the authority, state government, to reduce the inequality in terms of incomes, the concentration of wealth on certain persons, groups, or institutions, and equal pay for equal work, secure improvement of health and strength of workers, and free and dignified growth of children. The state shall step to organize and empower village panchayats, secure participation of workers in the management of industries, frame a uniform civil code, and secure separation of judicial and executive. So it will ensure the health of the every citizen. It will ensure the participation of workers in the management of industries. It prohibits the forced labor. It prohibits the beggar. It prohibits concentration of wealth for the means of production against common detriment. Within the limits of its resources, the state shall make provision for the rights to work and education and to public assistance to the employment, sick, old, and disabled, secure just human condition of the work and maternity leave and decent living, wage, raise, level of education, standard of living and public health, early childhood care and education of children below the age of 6, for improvement of agriculture and animal husbandry, try to improve the breeds and prohibit slaughter of calves, cows, and other milch and draught cattle. It will try to improve environment, protect forest, and cover the wildlife. So, the directive principles of state policy, it is very positive in nature. It fixes the responsibilities on the state, government, and authority to for the welfare of the state, for the protection of the needy and weak persons, the protection of the minority, the protection of the wild animals, the protection of the environment, the protection of the cows, the protection of the cattle, the protection of the milch cows, calves, and draught cattle. So, at the same time, there are fundamental duties. At the same time, there are fundamental duties. Following the recommendation of Sponsoring Committee of a new section, Part 4 A on fundamental rights was added to the Constitution. It consists of a single Articles 51A containing a charter of 10 fundamental duties for citizens. The legal status of fundamental duties is quite similar to directive principle of state policy, which, as we know, are instructions addressed to the state and is not legally bound to follow these instructions. The fundamental duties are also in the nature of instructions, but addressed to the citizens. They too have no legal sanction in the sense that the state is not expected to monitor the citizens to see if the duties are being carried out. So the underlying principles of the, as you know, the Article 51A containing a charter of fundamental duties. So fundamental duties are alike to the directive principle of state policy. It fixes the responsibilities on the state, the protection of the above said aspects. So the main theme of the human rights, as it is enshrined in Section 2 of the Protection of Human Rights Act 1992, defines Human Rights Act, life, liberty, equality, and dignity. We have already discussed the provisions of our Constitution, that is, human rights relating to the life, liberty, and equality, which is already enshrined in our Constitution, and by these provisions, the dignity of the individuals are guaranteed by the Constitution, are embodied in the international on covenants and enforceable by the courts of law. So these are the lives, these are the human rights relating to the rights to life, liberty, and equality. And human rights also known as various terms of natural rights and fundamental rights. And all the fundamental rights, as you have discussed, is the fundamental rights enshrined in our Constitution, and which is the guarantor of the fundamental rights. The fundamentals, the Supreme Court and the High Courts of the states are the protector of the fundamental rights. No state, no government, no authority can violate the principles of fundamental rights. This is the basic principles, basic structure of the Constitution. The Supreme Court has already given the verdict that the amendment of the Constitution can be brought out without violating the basic structures of the fundamental rights. The human rights, the concept of human rights is historically the it is also the it is also developed through many passages of historical developments, and during the colonial period, as the Indians were denied the basic rights, they fought for the human individual liberty, explain characteristics, freedom of speech and expressions, to assemble peacefully, and these are the we have already discussed. So the last is the Indian international human rights obligation. So as we know, the the Indian government or India during the last 60 years has ratified or signed 15 human rights treaties. I have already signed the 15 human rights treaties. However, in this unit, we are discussing only 5 treaties, which are known as core of treaties. That is, the first is the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. That is that is signed, or that is uh, the treaty signed on in 1965. That is the International Convention uh, International Convention of Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. This treaty was signed in 1965. Number two, International Covenant on Economics, Social, and Cultural Rights, 1966. International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, 1966. Convention of the Rights of the Child, 1992. Convention of Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women, 1979. Convention against Tenure and Other Cruel, Inhumane, Degrading Treatment for Punishment, 1984. So there are also the covenant or the treaty signed by the government of India how to treat the prisoners, and how they treat the persons, those who are injured in the war, and those who are the prisoners of the war. The we have signed the international covenant, international treaties against the torture and other cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment. So, as you know, from the in our ancient Indian also, there are so many rules prescribed by our dharma or scriptures, that when the conch was blown, the Mahabharata was begun. When there was the concluding period, the conch was blown, signaling or indicating
जॉइन कले सर
ମୁଁ ଜାଣିନି।
देखे ଟିକେ
ଆରେ ନା ହଁ ଅଛନ୍ତି ବୋଧେ।
हेलो
ଗୋଟେ ମିନିଟ୍ ୱେଟ୍।
हेलो
ଡକ୍ଟର ସନ୍ତୋଷ କୁମାର ପାଣିଗ୍ରାହୀ ନା ସେ ବାହାରି ଗଲେ କଣ ଗୋଟେ। ତାଙ୍କୁ ଆଉ କୁହ ଆଉ ଥରେ ଜଏନ୍ କରିବେ।
रेकॉर्डिंग टा बंद करे
नहीं
अबे किसी चलनी पर है
बंद क्या करो
अब चलो चलो
मीटिंग चलू
हेलो सर कौन बाहर गले तो कनेक्ट करो ओके कि पिला ही नहीं दिख रहे
ଅଛନ୍ତି ପିଲାମାନେ
मोर टे अनम्यूट करनु
ଅନମ୍ୟୁଟ ଅଛି
wait sir is actually again connecting because net problem was there so again our sir is coming to the line as long as sir will join so
सर जॉइन कर ले
hello
हाँ हाँ
हाँ so is audible ना okay okay sir continue sir
सर सर
से
सर
ଯେତିକି ଥିଲା ସେତିକି ଅଛନ୍ତି
तो
ଯେତିକି ଥିଲା ସେତିକି
so the two UN covenants on human rights recognize the state is the guarantor of and protector of human rights of the individuals residing in it. It is not to question of state sovereignty, but states differ from one another in their socio-economic and political and cultural condition and traditions. So we are bound by the international covenant, the international treaties signed by the government of India, and by the international treaties also the human rights are protected. The and all the international treaties it is reflected in our constitution, in the amendments of the constitution, and the legislation has been brought about taking into consideration the international treaties, and we have already signed 14 amendments regarding the human rights and the human
माइक्रोफोन ऑन
so is it audible to everybody sir is audible to everybody
जोड़ा अनम्यूट करे देखो
hello
what
please unmute one person tell me is audible to everybody
Yes, sir.
Yes, audible.
okay thank you okay continue
कौन कौन जो बाहरी वाला
सर
वेट करिया पे को
sir is again reconnecting.
ହେଲା କନେକ୍ଟ ହେଲା ହେଲା କନେକ୍ଟ ହେଲା
हेलो हेलो
म्यूट କରିଛନ୍ତି ମୁଁ ଭାବୁନି
ଅଛନ୍ତି କି ଗଲେ
म्यूट କରିଛନ୍ତି ସବୁ
हेलो सर कनेक्ट है सर बुद्धि टी देखुनु
देखुछ बजे हां कनेक्ट होला तो माइक ऑन अछि
देखलु
सर कनेक्ट होला बा
मो मते किसी बुंदा गटा
ताको पचार कावडे पचार सुभावती नै
से तो कोउ थे सुबुची बोल सर ने मो माइक ऑन
एबे
मो हां इट्स ऑडिबल
Yes, sir. Audible.
okay sir is audible to you sir is audible to you
No,
hello
not audible. No, sir.
it's not audible
No.
wait hello लागू नहीं मैंने ट्राई करिए ना कौन करी कहउछन ओके ना ना आपण अबे नेट आपण कनेक्ट हेले तो क्वेश्चन सेशन करिया ओके तो बताओ कनेक्ट होनी ओके ओके ओके
माइक ऑन कर दे
ओ माइक
ऑन अछि
dear learners now I mean sir actually the net problem is going on so the almost class was over so now sir has told if you have any question to ask him so then you can ask your question but I mean unfortunately sir's net was not working so sir's class is in day after tomorrow so once you start our class then initial phase you can take your question okay whatever the problem you first I mean whatever the doubts you have you can ask the question to sir in the initial means you are start our class okay so now it's audible to everybody
Yes, sir. Audible.
so so now I'm just wind up the class so tomorrow there is a class of the Vaikunath Swami sir of the next block so around 10 o'clock again we will start our class on next day so it's request to all of you kindly I mean दया करी टिके आपण मानक सांग साथी टिके मेसेज करंतु कारण I had given in the I created a group and I had several times I've been writing in the group but very few students are coming up where the number is around 60 people have taken the admission in this course, but no one is coming in the class. You are losing the opportunity, because this is the right platform and right opportunity to learn something. Because throughout Odisha, you are conducting a class, because otherwise in the different study center, the few no students is there. It is not possible to in our part to have a class on face-to-face interaction mode. So if you know anybody and you had created a group also, just a minute. Hello. हाँ I mean सारा ना नेट आसुनी actually ठीक ଅଛି ଗୋଟେ ମିନିଟ ଆପଣ କଲ୍ କରୁଛି so I mean so what I am telling you, so please kindly circulate among your friends and write in the group also. We have created a group, so if you join in more and more students, then it will benefit to the students only, okay, not to us. That's my request to all of you. So today you are wind up the class, so tomorrow 10 o'clock again you have to see, okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
बंद कर ले।